Hey guys, welcome back to the Social Work Race. Welcome. I want to ask a question and then we're going to get into it. Have you ever noticed that the only time you hear about social workers in the media is when something goes pear-shaped? It's when a child dies, somebody was let down. Otherwise, you never hear about us. This is Disguised Compliance Part 3. Listen to this clip.
Okay, Mrs. Johnston, let's talk about the abuse.
There wasn't no drugs in my house. I didn't play that. There wasn't no drugs in my house. Precious, no, I would whoop her ass if she gonna bring some drugs up in my house.
You know what I'm talking about. I'm referring to specific sexual and physical acts involving Precious.
Why you ain't say that?
Yes, that.
Well, what you want to know?
According to Precious files, she has now had 2 children by your boyfriend, the late Carl Kenwood Jones, who is also her father.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is accurate.
Yes, Miss Weiss.
I need to know why you're here. You've been calling this office saying you want to be reunited with Precious and your grandchild. Now, I really need to know what's gone on in that home.
Miss Weiss, I understand we need to discuss it, but I'm just telling you, you said I've been calling here and I've been wanting to see Precious and my grandson. You goddamn right I want to see him because they belong to me, okay? Now, there was a time Precious had everything, and I done told her that. And me and Carl, we love Precious. And you need to know that. We love Precious, and we had dreams. Precious was born around the same time Miss West's son got killed. The summertime. She was born the summertime. Remember that?
I was born in November.
November. Yeah. That's right. My Scorpio child. You know, Scorpios, they can be tricky. And I'm not saying that they lie. I'm not saying that. But you just gotta watch them.
Can we talk about the actual acts of physical and sexual abuse that occurred in your household? When it first began, where it happened, and how did you respond?
Precious was a little girl.
Try and remember how old you think she was.
She was 3. And I had been giving her the bottle. And I was giving Carl the titty because my milk hadn't dried up in my breasts. But not from her, but because Carl was sucking on them. And that's what kept my milk in my breasts. And I thought that was for hygiene. I did what my mother told me that I was supposed to do with my child. So that's what I did. And you're sitting up there and you're trying to judge me.
I'm not judging you. But you're asking me for money, and you're asking me to be reunited with your grandson?
But Miss Weiss, I don't like you looking at me like that. You got this bitch looking at me like I'm some kind of fucking monster.
We don't talk like this in my office, okay?
I didn't want her sucking behind him because that was nasty. And the things that it was just nasty, Miss Weiss. I had a man, and I have a child. And I had to take care of both of them. Okay? Did I want Carl to touch my baby? Because I would lay my baby. I would lay her on the side of me on this pillow. And it was pink. And it had this little white writing on it, and it had her name. Because she was precious. and I would lay my baby on that pillow, and Carl would be laying on the other side. And then we would start doing it, and he reached over and he touched my baby. And I asked him, I said, Carl, what are you doing? And he told me to shut my fat ass up, and it was good for her.
And what did you do then?
I shut my fat ass up. And I don't want you to sit there and judge me, Miss Weiss.
You shut up and you let him abuse your daughter.
I did not want him to abuse my daughter. I did not
But
want him to hurt her. I did not want him to do nothing to her. I wanted him to make love to me. That was my man. That was my fucking man. That was my man. And he wanted my daughter. And that's why I hated her. Because my man, who was supposed to be loving me, who was supposed to be making love to me, was fucking my baby. And she made him leave. She made him go away.
So whose fault was it then?
It's this bitch's fault, because she let my man have her, and she didn't say nothing. She didn't scream. She didn't do nothing. So those things that she told you I did to her, who else was going to love me? Since you got your degree, and you know every fucking thing, who was going to love me? Who was going to make me feel good? Who was going to touch me and make me feel good later in the night? And she made him go away. So when you sit there and you write them fucking notes on your pad about who you think I am and why I did it and all of that.
So this is it. There are parents out there who will allow the abuse of their children, and we're going to explore that. And we're going to explore a little bit about how we can write assessments when we have to meet these parents. Something that was interesting, let me see if I can find it. Where I looked at the comments in this clip, and it said, I work in social services and you have no idea how common this sort of stuff is. And we as the social worker have to just sit there. We have to listen. We have to take notes. We have to not show any judgment. That's why social work has a constant revolving door, because of stuff like this. And to be fair, Mariah Carey, who we all know for singing, she did a really good job as a social worker in this movie. It was quite heavy. That's a clip from the movie Precious. I encourage you to watch it, because it will, if you have your assessment social worker critical thinking hat on, it will inform as to how to look at people who are doing this, who are allowing abuse of their children. Typically women, but it happens across the board, men and women. You may ask, why am I so graphic with some of my posts? Why do I go there? Because these are the issues that we face every day, and social workers do not get to close their eyes. So if you're a student, this is a really good video for you, because it's a reality check. Because particularly if you're going into working with children and families, you will probably come across a case like this. It's common. We don't get to close our eyes to this. We have to see this and sit with it. And then we go home afterwards to our families. But sadly, again, you only get to see the serious case reviews and the failures, but you don't often see the good work that we do. But that's fine, because I didn't do this job for accolades. Social workers just breathe it. We breathe this work. And this podcast is an extension of a previous podcast on disguised compliance. Remember baby Arthur, whose mum and dad were abusing him? How two people feel that it's okay to abuse a child. I mean, seriously abuse a child. And none of them is checking the other and saying, what are you doing? Why that doesn't happen is really what we're going to take a brief look at. And I want to explore really more why parents do that with their children. Just sit there and watch them suffer. This clip epitomizes the deeper reasons. Some parents will put up with an abuser sometimes because they don't want to be alone. This is real. They would rather see abuse than be alone. You could say that some people will put up with this because their voice was taken when they themselves were abused. That's an issue. So when people are traumatized from a very young age, just like Maya Angelou, who was sexually abused at 8 years old, she didn't talk for about 5 years. And this happens, but I would say the majority of people who are abused, and I think it's a lot more than we think, or we can state, there is a voice that they lose after the abuse, or if it's continual abuse, then they learn to keep their mouth shut because that's what they were trained to do. And we would think that, oh, well, now you're an adult, now you have a child, you should have a voice. You'd expect that. But in reality, what happens when you are traumatized by your past abuse? And I would guess that some people don't even recognize that they were abused. This is just life. This particular guy or an uncle, which is classically the case, someone known to the family, will take advantage of these children because the predators know how to abuse silently. They're professionals at it. And they know how to keep children or young ladies in their place, keeping the door open whilst they can do that. That's what they do. So we can't forget that, and we cannot expect that suddenly you'll get a voice. It doesn't happen with everybody. That's the other side of the coin of the issue. Some people, here's another reason, some people will try to protect the abuser, again, because they have been trained to think so. The abuser is probably posing as someone that they need, or they have learned to develop or groomed into a state of dependence. And so whilst this abuser is abusing a child, they refuse to see them as an abuser because they are with them. Oh man, this is deep. This is deep. And you may get angry, but this is the other side of the coin. Again, because they fear being alone more than the welfare of their child. That's another reality. The fear of being alone, the fear of losing the man, the fear of losing the woman is greater than their desire or need to protect their child. That's reality. It doesn't always make sense. This is the thing. But when we write assessments, we have to consider that this may be the case, and you may get that information from the service user if they allude to it. And then it goes further because they may disguise their compliance with us in order to protect what they have. So all of the above, yes, I'm going to protect the abuser. I'm going to stop them from finding out that my child has been abused because I don't want to lose my child, but I don't know how to stop my partner from doing what he does or she does. So I will act like I'm working with the social worker. And this is where social workers have to be really, really on the ball. Just keeping their eyes open to small things. There's even a level of instinct and intuition where you can tell that someone is really trying to make out that they're working with us, but they're not. And I guess sometimes it can even take a level of supernatural power to kind of open your eyes to see through. Because some people have been disguising their compliance. Some victims, should I say, have learned to disguise a level of compliance, even in their education, since they were kids. And now they're 15, 16, 20, 25, 30, 40. just got a new boyfriend, they've learnt to pull the wool over everybody's eyes because that's what they were. That's what they did to survive. And so I want to give you a tip, and it's actually in a statement from mentalhealth.net. But it just really helps us in terms of how we assess these situations. The statement says this: denial is a powerful and primitive defense mechanism. Someone who is dependent, frightened, and themselves the victim of abuse can remain silent and not even hear or see the abuse in order to maintain the desperately needed relationship with the abuser. In a way, it is a variation of the old saying, hear no evil, see no evil. Well, people do hear it and see it and fail to act. And so what we're looking at here is sometimes people who are just disabled, but they let their child get hurt. And in this country, we do not tolerate that. We hate when children get hurt. We hate to see children suffer in this country, and rightfully so. We also have to consider that some people, and I'm going to do a podcast on this, some people are trapped, even though they have adult bodies and they can have adult sex and watch adult movies and they have adult freedoms, they are still children on the inside. That podcast is coming soon. Thanks for listening, and I hope this helped. Look after yourselves.